An 11-year-old actress was required to perform a controversial scene opposite a 28-year-old actor. It was directed and recorded by adults who had deliberately selected someone close to the age of the character. She later said,
"It was an experience I was not properly prepared for."
Her mother backstage watched it, signed the contract, and counted the dollars. The controversial scenes were filmed on a set depicting Storyville in New Orleans in 1978. Once you understand how she was selected and what really happened during 5 months of filming, you will see why the movie caused international outrage and was restricted to prohibited in several regions. The real question is not why Brooke Shields made this movie. The real question is why Americans around her decided that she could. The film, Pretty Baby, started as a prestige project. Director Louis Malle, a celebrated French filmmaker making his first American movie. The script came from Polly Platt, one of the most important creative women at that time in Hollywood, a name almost every version of this story leaves out. They built it on a real history book about Storyville, the old red light district of New Orleans, and on the real photographs of a man named Belloc. The film was meant to be serious art, and that is exactly what makes it controversial to look at. Because to tell a story about a child pulled into the world of Hollywood, Malle decided he needed a real kid. The studio suggested Jodie Foster. She had just stunned audiences in Taxi Driver. Malle turned her down, and his reason should stop you cold. Foster was 14. He felt that was too old. He wanted someone who was genuinely the age of the character. He did not want an actress performing innocence. He wanted the real thing. If you have ever wondered how something like this could happen in plain sight, subscribe and stay with me because the answer is strange and sad. Then Louis Malle saw the sugar and spice photographs of Brooke Shields. There was no real audition, it was a conversation. He asked her about her life. He asked her whether she understood the historical portrayed in the story. She did. She had grown up in New York. She was familiar with the type of environment he was describing, and her mother had explained it to her. What Malle was testing for was not talent in the ordinary sense. He wanted to be sure she would not play the part as a knowing, calculating child. He wanted her to not fully understand how everybody in the film was looking at her. Sit with that for a second. Her limited understanding became an important part of the director's creative approach. But the most important decision in this entire story was not made by Louis Malle. It was made by the woman who was, at the very same time, Brooke's mother and her manager. Her name was Teri Shields. She had been steering her daughter's career since Brooke was a baby, when she earned $25 for a soap commercial. Long before the word existed, Teri was the original momager, and she did not believe in keeping her daughter away from these kinds of roles. She believed in being in the room and keeping control. When Pretty Baby came along, Teri did not sit her 11-year-old down to weigh the law or the lifelong consequences.
We are going to be spending a few months together in New Orleans.
To Brooke, this was not a moral decision. It was an adventure, a long summer with her mom. She has said plainly that she wanted to do it for the trip, for the acting, for the world of the film. Brooke thought about the costumes and the set, and the time with her mother. The other people attending were supposed to think about everything else. And later, when the storm hit, Teri's instinct was to protect her daughter from shame. She kept asking Brooke just 2 questions. Was she proud of the work? Did she have fun making it? As long as the answer stayed yes, Teri saw no reason to let her believe she had done anything wrong. You can hear the love in that, but can you also hear the trap? So how was she actually treated day to day? The studio announced it had taken every precaution. Teachers, psychological evaluation, parental supervision. A production being careful, it said, because of the nature of the material. The reality was heavier. Brooke has described workdays that ran 12, sometimes 15 hours. The brutal New Orleans heat, antique shoes that cut into her feet, filming on weekends so it could work around her schooling. There was a controversial scene with an adult actor.
It was an experience I was not properly prepared for.
And by her own account, no one, especially her own mother, had not truly prepared her for it. And there were the scenes that would follow her for the rest of her life. Here is one detail that tells you everything about the power in that room. For a single scene, Susan Sarandon, playing her mother, had to slap her hard. They did it again and again, 9 times in a row, because it could not be faked. Sarandon herself would later describe that set as chaotic, with heavy drinking around the edges of the production. That is her memory, not a proven record of every day, but it sits very uncomfortably next to the studio's picture of a calm, fully controlled shoot. The film world took Pretty Baby seriously. Later in the video, you will see that it was even selected for a major award. This is where the story refuses to be simple. Not everyone on set was a villain. Keith Carradine, the grown man in those scenes, is someone Brooke remembers as kind. He reassured her. He told her that a kiss while acting did not count as her real first kiss. The people around her seemed to understand that she needed that line drawn for her. In those small human moments, they treated her like the child she was, which makes the larger fact even stranger. Everyone clearly knew she was a child. They drew careful little lines to protect her feelings, and the entire time, the project still placed a young performer at the center of extremely mature subject matter. And then there's the thing almost no one wants to hear. Brooke Shields says she felt safe. She has described that set as one of the most predictable, structured, secure places of her entire childhood. There were schedules, people had clear jobs, she knew exactly what was expected of her. Compared to the chaos of her life off camera, that order was a comfort. Hold on to that because it is going to complicate everything you are about to feel. If this story is making you rethink what you assumed about Hollywood in the 70s, take 1 second to like this video and subscribe. It genuinely helps the real story reach people, and there is a lot more coming. When Pretty Baby was released in 1978, the controversy did not happen by accident. Much of it was engineered. The pre-publicity was, in the words of the director's own brother, completely deliberate, and it came from Malle, not the studio. New York Magazine compared the film to another famously controversial story involving youth and adult power. A photo spread tied to the movie ran into the magazine. Was it on purpose? And the public took the bait. The gossip columnist Rona Barrett directly confronted the filmmakers about the controversy surrounding the young actress. The critics split down the middle. Roger Ebert defended it as a portrait of a vanished era. Others saw something they simply could not stomach. The movie stopped being a movie. It became a national argument about art, controversy, censorship, and where the line should be. But look closely at who ended up standing in the center of that argument. Not the director, not the studio executives, not the writers. A child. The press did not just review the film, they wrote about her. Brooke Shields became the face of the subject. While she was still a kid, treated less like a person and more like a symbol. A symbol onto which adults projected their conflicting ideas about innocence and fame, of everything adults were panicking about. The grown-ups had written the script, signed the deal, set up the camera, and approved the release. And then they handed a 12-year-old the microphone and asked her to explain why all of it was acceptable. For all the outrage, the film world took it seriously. Pretty Baby was selected for the Cannes Film Festival. And let me correct another myth right now. It did not win the Palme d'Or. It was nominated for it, and it won the technical grand prize. The cinematography by Sven Nykvist, the man who shot Ingmar Bergman's films, was so beautiful that it wrapped the movie in a kind of armor. It looked like high art. That is part of how it slipped past the gate. But Cannes also revealed how the world really treated her. At a public event there, a stranger tried to cut off a piece of her hair as a souvenir. A handler had to step in. She was a child. By the time the trip was over, the glamour had curdled into something closer to a siege. Before the final part, if you have made it this far, subscribe, because the way Brooke herself and her daughters rate her role in Pretty Baby, decades later, is not what you would expect. Brooke Shields still defends Pretty Baby. She calls it one of the most beautiful films she has ever made. She was so fascinated by it that she wrote her senior thesis at Princeton on the work of Louis Malle, on the journey from innocence to experience. She has said, in plain words, that she was not personally scathed by it. Here is what makes this story so much harder than a simple case of exploitation. There was no famous American trial where a judge declared Pretty Baby to be banned. The legal fight was mostly about censorship and classification. In Canada, the province of Ontario banned it and kept that ban even after Malle personally tried to overturn it. Saskatchewan banned it too. So did Queensland in Australia. In Minnesota, officials warned theater owners under new laws about material involving young performers. In Britain, as I said, the censor stalled until a new Child Protection Act passed, and Malle had to accept cuts just to get it released. Think about what that means. A film so charged that a country was effectively rewriting its laws while it sat on the censor's desk. There is one more courtroom worth mentioning, and I want to be honest about what it was. It did not concern this film. It concerned a separate set of photographs that her mother had signed the rights away to. Years later, Brooke went to court to bury them, and she lost. But during that fight, a judge looked at the situation her mother had created and put the whole contradiction into one sentence. He said she had been maternally protective but exploitative at the same time, and that she could not have it both ways. A judge, talking about her mother, had accidentally described this entire story. Brooke's two daughters struggle to watch Pretty Baby. From the outside, they see something she could never feel from the inside. They remind her that they are watching their mother appear in highly mature scenes at only 11 years old. The next generation flinches exactly where she does not. So, who is right? Maybe that is the wrong question. Maybe the truth is that all of it can be real at once. The set could have felt safe to the girl who stood on it. The filmmakers could have believed they were making art. And the whole enterprise could still raise questions. If someone that young could not fully understand the long-term consequences of the production, then which of the adults was supposed to understand it for her? They are all gone from the frame now. Only she is left. Brooke said, Hollywood is built on eating its young, that she was at the center of it, that she was the one promoting it, the one doing it. Both of those things come out of the same mouth, the pride and the indictment. Live with that contradiction, because she does. Thanks for watching, liking, and subscribing.